Hold on to your seats, because Atlanta's hip-hop and love streets are on fire once more. And this time, it's messier than before. Word is circulating that a major eruption just occurred on set, according to shocking fan footage and multiple insider rumors, and that Yandy Smith-Harris has stormed off filming in tears, slamming doors behind her after a jaw-dropping altercation where Rasheeda is accused of taking sides. Not with her longtime friend, but with Jessica Diamond. Things quickly became ugly. They claim that the drama erupted like a volcano during what should have been a calm girls' night, but instead it descended into chaos, with flying wigs, accusations, and friendships hanging by a thread. Though early rumors indicate that Rasheeda's shocking betrayal deeply wounded Yandy, Jessica didn't hold back with her words or her hands. What actually transpired? Why did Rasheeda switch sides? And what did Jessica say that caused Yandy to lose it all? Don't worry, we've got every messy detail and emotional twist coming your way. It was intended to be a simple dinner to decompress after weeks of stress, but as soon as Yandy entered the room, you could sense the energy shift. The long mahogany table was set with flickering candles and rose petals scattered across the center, creating a striking contrast to the impending storm Jessica was experiencing. You won't want to miss this one. It's giving betrayal, heartbreak, pure love, and hip-hop fire. The rest of the cast trickled in, exchanging awkward greetings and fervent glances, aware that tonight could blow up at any moment. Dime was already there, perched at the head of the table, her posture relaxed, but her gaze sharply scanning for her target. Rasheeda arrived moments later, offering forced smiles and soft laughter, though the tension in her shoulders betrayed her nerves. She sank into her chair, took a deep breath, and then forced a smile. She poured herself a glass of sparkling water, her fingers shaking a little. Across from her, Jessica raised her wine glass and made a slow, deliberate toast to two truths we cannot hide. The room fell silent, and while her lips tightened, she replied with a courteous cheer, but the sound of her voice broke the silence. In an attempt to salvage the atmosphere, Rasheeda cleared her throat. "Let's just eat and talk about fun things," she said, but her voice cracked. Everyone knew she was trying to play peacekeeper, but nobody was thinking about peace when the appetizers, shrimp cocktails, and bruschetta arrived. However, nobody bit Jessica, who leaned forward with her elbows on the table and never took her eyes off Yandy. "Miss Perfect, how is life treating you now that you're so busy controlling everyone around you?" The words were dripping with poison and sweetness. Yandy's hand stopped in midair, and she took a breath and said, "I'm doing great." Jessica shifted uneasily, her cheeks flushed, but she remained steady. "It's funny how some people need to bring others down in order to feel big." She smiled that knowing smile, one corner of her mouth twitching. "Tear down, girl," she said, "because some of us don't have time for fake crowns. The other ladies are us TLED. Erica pretended to look at her plate while Bambi fiddled with her serviette. Rasheeda looked at both sides and put down her fork. "I built everything from nothing. Do you think you know struggle? Try working," Jessica said with a small laugh. "Oh honey, you're acting like you invented hard work. Remember who's been grinding. We're here to bond." So Rasheeda tried to stop it, but her calm voice was drowned out by the growing storm voices over the overlapped Yandy accusing Jessica of clout and Jessica firing back about broken things. As long as the hot embers of old wounds blazed, accusations flew like sparks. The air tasted of tension and spilt wine, and the others watched with some sympathy. The cameras rolled, recording every expression, every lip tremble, every fist clench, and the crew exchanged anxious glances. Should we cut it short? Jessica slammed as the dinner devolved. Promises. Rasheeda was caught between loyalty to a friend and a bond broken by secrets. "I don't know, you think you can come for me with rumors?" She moved towards Jessica, her voice trembling with hurt and anger. Rasheeda rose too, stepping between them. Yandy Chill placed a hand on the table, making glasses clink. "You think you're the only one with a story, but newsflash, everyone's got dirt." Jessica's high-pitched, cruel laughter bubbled from both of their arms, but neither listened. So Yandy turned on Rasheeda. "Stay out of this, you're just jealous, you didn't get the crown." "That's right." Rasheeda said it. "You know who deserves the throne?" she said, her face hardened. "I'm not picking sides." But the words, the scene felt like slow motion, with Rasheeda's hand faltering, Jessica sneering, and Yandy's lip quivering before Rasheeda dropped her hands and turned to face Yandy. "Perhaps you should look in the mirror," sounded hollow. Yandy's eyes filled then. "What are you doing playing both ends?" she whispered. "Breathe, caught you too." Rasheeda's head was bowed, and she said, "I'm tired of pretending the betrayal was visible in Yandy's eyes." Jessica stepped closer, her voice low. "That's right, we're tired of the self-righteous act." Yandy backed away, and the table between them felt insurmountable. And the glasses tipped over, as if to match the chaos inside. Y grabbed her purse and stormed off her heels, clicking like a heartbeat on the hardwood floor as cameras followed her, Jessica and Rasheeda watching. The red wine pooling mirrored the tension that stained the night someone screamed. But it was drowned out by the thunder outside, the rain hammering against windows. The sight of Yandy's retreating form in the hallway soured their victory. Yandy stopped leaning against the wall, letting her tears slip out, and covered her face as she gasped and approached Tariq in concern. Erica asked softly, and Yandy looked up, red-eyed, and they turned on me. Voice breaking, she said, in the dining room. The group sat in stunned silence while Rasheeda glanced at her hands. Jessica's victorious smile wavered, and Bambi whispered to Scrappy, "This isn't over." Rasheeda also nodded, wiping her face. Scrappy shook his head and said, "No, this is just the beginning." Outside, Yandy paced beneath the awning while the rain dripped from her hair, and her phone was constantly buzzing with callers who were identified as producer-publicists. Cameras panned, catching every moment of regret on Rasheeda's face and every triumphant flash in Jessica's eyes. She slammed the phone down and stood pacing the tiny room, ignoring the cast and crew inside as they discussed whether to cut the scene or let it play because fans had already died. Memories of the nights she leaned on Rasheeda and the times she gave Jessica a chance came flooding back. She reminded herself that this was simply more material for the show, but whether it was seen or not, her blood still boiled outside of her, her own power, the profession she established with tenacity and grace. Doubting voices crept in the late hours, the whispers of grudges, the secret rumors. She swallowed hard and forced herself to breathe. When Trailer Rasheeda saw Yandy's red eyes, she approached hesitantly because she had been up early, plagued by guilt and uncertainty. She swallowed. "I heard about the memo," she said quietly, and Yandy glared, her fists clenched at her sides. "You heard?" Rasheeda shook her head, her voice trembling. "No, Yandy, I didn't." She swore at her chest. Then she whispered to Rasheeda, who turned aside. There was silence between them, a gap of mistrust larger than any table. Jessica was smirking at her mirror backstage at a style session, and her hairstylist frantically asked, "Are you okay?" "I'm more than okay," she said, carefully adjusting her wig. "I'm electric," she replied. She texted Jessica and watched the tiny blue ticks flicker as a strategy meeting was in progress, with clips dropping. "I don't do titles for people who stab me in the back." The casual brunch conversation turned into clipped questions and withering glares, and the city skyline behind them felt like a silent witness to the drama that was playing out. Rasheeda attempted to steer the conversation to avoid escalating into genuine animosity. A handheld off-camera shot jerked towards Jessica, who was gloating, and cut straight to Yandy's angry reaction, with impressive storm clouds in her eyes. After the shoot, the cast withdrew to the green room, and everyone fell silent as they noticed Yandy's stormy expression. The conversation returned to pleasantries, but laughter behind the camera interrupted her. Bambi whispered to Erica, "We need to defuse this," but neither of them dared approach Yandy. Instead, Erica sat next to Rasheeda, who was staring at nothing, angry at the silence. He tapped his foot and walked across the room, lowering his voice. "You guys need to talk this out," he said, and no one moved. Meanwhile, fans on Twitter demanded a roundtable and a heart-to-heart mediated by behind the scenes. The producers organized a unique confessional shot in which each woman would record her version of events. Part 2 of the drama would depend on these confessions, which were raw and unfiltered. Hashtag trended hashtag YANDDY. Storm off. Hashtag RHEED betrays. Hashtag Jessica Champion agreed to tape first. She sat in front of the camera, her voice shaking as she spoke. "I came here to support and encourage, but I was taken by surprise. What hurts the most is that Rasheeda, whom I trusted with my heart, paused and swallowed Jessica. I'm not even sure why you're upset with me." But hearing that laughter on that voice memo made her words cut the deepest. Carried pain cameras that captured every tremor. Next was Rasheeda, who sat under harsh lights with her shoulders slumped. "I made a mistake and let my fear of losing favor blind me. Jessica's laughter on that tape gave me strength, so I followed her." Breathed deeply. "I'm sorry. I want to make it right." Her eyes darted up, and her voice was shaky. Her confession hung in the air like glass, and then Jessica took a seat. She smirked at the camera and said, "You want my side?" In a smooth voice, "I'm real, I'm honest, Yandy," she said. "You get tired of crowns after playing royalty games for too long, so I cut it short." She apologized if what she said upset anyone, but this is reality TV, so the only thing that matters is the truth. Shalene's eyes shined, and I was on top. The confessional tapes were cut into a dramatic teaser music for a special episode. The teaser went live on social media that afternoon, and the internet exploded with fan comments from sympathizers for Yandy, critics of Jessica, and merciful hearts for Rasheeda. The reactions were immediate, and the production fiercely scheduled an emergency cast. There were quick cuts, flash frames of tears, gasps, and scornful laughter. We're at a crossroads. This drama is great for ratings, but real friendships are at stake, so we need a resolution, whether it's on or off camera. Rasheeda's shoulders shook, she bit her lip, and Yandy clenched her nails into fists. Jessica folded her arms. Everyone was gathered in a circle under studio lights. There was a lot of silence until the executive producer spoke. Erica went forward. With an unblinking voice, she looked at Rasheeda and asked, "Will you apologize to Yandy in person?" Rasheeda nodded and said, "We've been through so much together that we can't let one moment define us, but we also need honesty." She stood with her arms crossed and said, "Go ahead," with a stiff voice. Rasheeda came slowly and said, "I'm sorry Yandy, I was wrong." She stopped a foot away, and although her stance remained straight, her eyes were filled with tears. Jessica then said, she went nearer, and for a little while, Yandy's jaw tightened as she said, I don't owe you an apology, but maybe we need to talk this out too?" It was like ice and fire, as Yandy stated. "I never expected you to say sorry, Jessica. I expected you to rebuild trust." The entire audience held its breath. The executive producer added, "This is TV gold, but it's also real life." Rasheeda stayed at Yandy's side as she reached out, but Yandy didn't pull. Part 3 of this story will be the reconciliation or the fallout. Either way, cameras will be rolling. The girls nodded, each lost in their own thoughts as the meeting adjourned. With his phone in hand, he checked trending hashtags and reaction videos while scrolling through angry tweets that defended Yandy memes, mocked Rasheeda's indecisiveness, and praised Jessica's boldness. For a brief moment, it appeared as though he was healing and proud of the hallways. He paused at a comment that said, "This season's drama is next level," and then grinned. Frowning, he considered acting as a mediator or letting the conflict play out to boost ratings, but he cared about these women too. He pocketed his phone and sighed. Lunch was supposed to be a group picnic scene in the park, but only half of the cast showed up. Yandy declined, asking for A instead of arriving on time for the solo confessional shoot. Rasheeda arrived with red eyes and avoided making eye contact. Jessica confidently strode in with her phone in hand, ready to record a live reaction video. However, tension was high as humidity cameras rolled on empty benches and scattered picnic baskets, contrasting staged smiles with genuine rage. Yandy's voice was steady now, but it was still tinged with heartbreak as she talked about loyalty, trust, and the hurt of betrayal. She didn't name anyone, but her words were powerful. "Sometimes you think you know someone until they show you who they really are," she said. "I'm choosing myself," she said, pausing and swallowing. The confessional closed on her resolute face, a fighter prepared for the next bout. "I waited under glaring lights, practicing my apologies, pacing back and forth before when it was her turn." Yandy stared into the camera and said, "I made a choice that hurt the person I love most." She mouthed, "I'm sorry again," but she had every right to be angry. All she could do was ask for forgiveness and pledge to earn it back. Jessica's single quotes reaction video went live while the others recorded their confessionals. She sat in front of a backdrop of neon lights with her phone in selfie mode. As soon as the lights went down after the take, she fell into a chair with her head in her hands. The weight of her mistake felt crushing. Fans want the tea. "The truth is that I'm sick of being the sidekick of a queen who believes she's superior. I did what anyone would do and took my shot," she said, then winked at the camera and concluded, "Stay tuned for more realness." The video received thousands of views in a matter of minutes. In a triangular confessional with a single round table, women were called to a mediated sit-down. The lights were low, the cameras were hidden, but rolling, and Yandy sat between Scrappy, Rasheeda and Erica on one side and Jessica on the other. The executive producer's voice came through a muted speaker, and the question was raised, "Do we need resolution or escalation? I came here to build, not destroy. I trusted you, Rasheeda, and you stabbed me in the back. Your choice caused silence, and Yandy's eyes were fixed on Rasheeda. Rasheeda's lips trembled, and Jessica watched as Yandy spoke first. I'm sorry, she whispered. I was afraid of losing you, so I chased. Yandy closed her eyes and opened them, saying softly, that hurt, but I sense your regret. She turned to face Jessica, asking, and why did you laugh at me? Make me the villain. Jessica's smirk vanished as she responded, I wanted to prove I have power. Tension erupted among the three, as Eric and Bambi exchanged anxious looks. Rasheeda looked pleadingly at Yandy and said, can we try to heal? As she looked at Jessica, Scrappy cleared his throat and said, this is TV, but it's also real. You three need to decide how to move forward. The words hung like brittle bridges, and finally she replied, I don't know if I can forgive or forget, but I respect the honesty. I'm open to finding a way, but trust takes time, she continued, nodding. It was a start when Rasheeda reached over and gently held Yandy's hand. Jessica hesitated, then put her fingertips on the table just inches from Yandy's. The cameras captured this tentative truce behind the scenes. And as they left the set, the producers gave. It was the first day of the group challenge shoot, and the atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. The scene was set in a sprawling loft with morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, leaving viewers wondering if this alliance would hold or if ambition would break it again. The director called action, and the rest of the cast hovered in the background, uneasy spectators to an alliance that felt as fragile as spun glass. Cameras followed every step as the ladies entered one by one. Gandhi arrived confidently, though her jaw was tight. Rasheeda followed, still bearing the weight of last night's apology. Jessica glided in with a studied nonchalance as if nothing had happened. Friendship was a facade. Ladies were told to organize a friendly brunch, passing mimosas and strawberries around a marble countertop, while she greeted everyone with a measured smile. Her eyes never quite settled on Jessica Rasheeda. She moved fluidly from dish to dish, providing bites and commentary, but occasionally her voice faltered as the scene developed. The script called for light banter about summer plans, but the editor's notes suggested injecting a bit of spicy chemistry. Producers watched from monitors anticipating fireworks, and Jessica leaned back against the counter with her arms crossed and nodded politely. But her eyes were like a hawk, scanning expressions with every word. The director called cut after a few takes. One of the actors half-joked, "You girls look suspiciously calm." Then, there was laughter, but it was forced. Yandy glanced at Rasheeda, who shrugged apologetically, and Jessica raised her eyebrow in a subtle challenge. The cameras then cut to close-ups of their faces, showing fear, guilt, and defiance. Yandy's brow furrowed, Rasheeda's eyes opened, and Jessica smiled thinly as the producer whispered, "We need raw reactions, tell them there's a surprise guest." This signaled for a candid moment as the ladies gathered on a velvet pursuit. Gasps echoed through the room as the door opened and K. Michelle entered with a letter sealed in crimson wax. "This letter contains a secret that could change everything," K. Michelle said, tearing it open and reading aloud. "Only one of you will emerge untouched when the truth is revealed, so choose carefully." Silence. The camera captured every eyelid movement and fist clenching as Michelle glanced at them and said softly, "Your previous acts will determine what occurs next." Yandy and Rasheeda looked at each other, and they had to choose between protecting themselves and trusting the alliance they had just formed. Jessica, for once, appeared unsure. And her assured exterior briefly broke. The first up was Yandy, who stood heart-pounding and spoke, "I sacrificed so much for this family, only to feel betrayed. My secret is that I still carry the pain of that betrayal every day." The next segment was unscripted and required each woman to stand and reveal a secret about herself. Something real, something raw. The rule was honesty or elimination. Others nodded, and Rasheeda's hand shook as she saw her friend's vulnerability. Jessica's lips tugging into a tight smile before she stood up and spoke with a trembling voice, saying, "I hurt the person I love the most because I followed someone else's lead instead of my heart. My secret is that I'm afraid that apology won't be enough." When it came to Jessica, she stood with her arms folded and her eyes blazing. "My secret is that I crave respect so much." Yandy's eyes softened, but her lips remained pinched together. Jessica gave a tiny bow in acknowledgement of Rasheeda's bravery. Following the confessions, K. Michelle held the letter once more. "The next twist is that you have to vote on who deserves it. I will do anything to claim it, Evan, even if it means crushing friendships." Her words hit the room like stones, and even Jessica appeared to recoil at her own admission. The producers, grinned behind the monitors. Alliances would be put to the test. After exchanging a quick look and making a silent agreement, Yandy and Rasheeda stood together. Their eyes narrowed as they realized she had to fight or be left alone. The voting started in private booths, and cameras captured trembling hands and furrowed brows. When the results were read aloud, the words "Jessica, you are safe," "Rasheeda, you are safe," and "you are the odd one out" reverberated throughout the loft, and Yandy's face was devoid of color as she voted for herself and Rasheeda, and then hesitated to vote for Yandy. She swallowed hard, nodded, and whispered, "I understand." She turned to Rasheeda and thanked her for supporting me. Rasheeda reached out, but her fingertips could only touch Yandy's hand before Yandy took a step back. Jessica grinned triumphantly, but Rasheeda's eyes were burning with guilt. Yandy picked up her purse and left. She paused at the door, turned, and lifted her chin as she left the alliance between Jessica and Rasheeda. The victory tasted sour when it was gained by betraying Yandy. Later that evening, as she headed out, heels clicked on the hardwood floor, and the cameras followed, recording every step. While some praised her for her strategic play, others referred to her as ruthless. The winner, in the court of public opinion, was Yandy, who was portrayed as the wronged hero, and the studio's ratings skyrocketed as producers. Fans reposted Yandy's departure clip, supporting her ride-or-die tweets. Cheered the commotion, while Yandy sat by herself in her trailer, scrolling through the barrage of encouraging messages. Tears filled her eyes, not out of sadness but gratitude, as she became aware that despite losing the challenge, she had won the hearts of her fans. She quickly texted Rasheeda, "Call me when you can," then shut her phone and leaned back determinedly. Inside the loft, Jessica and Rasheeda were facing each other in the dim glow of the rap party. Jessica broke the silence by saying, "You okay?" Rasheeda looked down Liv and said, "My voice is ragged, but I wish things were different." Jessica shrugged, saying that was the game and that she had no regrets. Rasheeda's eyes flicked up. "Perhaps I do." "Regrets?" Jessica turned away, and the mask slipped behind them. The cast celebrated without realizing their fracture as the night wore on. Black taxis lined the curb, and the ladies said their goodbyes. Yandy got into one of them, and as it drove away, she glanced back at the loft's magnificent windows. Jessica and Rasheeda stood silent outside, and Yandy's silhouette dimmed. The answers would arrive soon. But for now, the screen went black, leaving fans eager for the next exciting chapter. As the streetlights came on, viewers at home were left on edge. Would Yandy fight back in the next episode? Would Rasheeda's guilt drive her to redemption or more betrayal? Would Jessica maintain her crown, or would it fall under the weight of her alliances? I believe the dust has settled, but the real question is still, after watching heartbreak, treachery, and hesitant allegiances fall apart and then reassemble before your eyes, will Yandy rise from the ashes, stronger than ever, reclaiming her throne and demonstrating to everyone what true resilience looks like? Can Rasheeda demonstrate that her apology was sincere? Wasn't just empty words, but the beginning of true redemption? Will she win Yandy's trust again, one sincere moment at a time? Will Jessica's one-time struggle be a short-lived triumph, or will her vicious ambition cause her to become isolated? When the cameras finally stop rolling, the story isn't finished. It's only just heating up. We'd like to hear your theories and audacious predictions about which alliance will endure and whose crown will fall. Please share your thoughts in the comments section below, along with who you're writing for. If you're hoping for Yandy to make a comeback, type "Rise Yandy" and share your favorite instance of her fierce spirit. If you think Rasheeda can heal, if you support Jessica and respect her fearless gameplay, use the forgive and heal emoji to convey some love for shattered bonds. Tell us with a queen's move. Shout, run, and don't forget to, if this amount of drama is your thing, press the like button and subscribe right away to ensure you don't miss a single surprise. To be informed when the tier or triumphant return occurs, click the bell symbol. 5 drips, because, believe us, you don't want to be the only one who doesn't know. Show off your strongest loyalty by sharing this video with your ride doy buddies and tagging them in the mayhem. The participants are prepared. The scene is set, and the next explosive is coming up. Will you be there? We'll see you in the comments when the next shocking revelation occurs.